Before we get into the show, we'd like to thank our sponsor, BritCan Darts. If you are in need for anything dart related, please head down to BritCan Darts in Calgary, and they will help you with anything you might need with the lowest prices in North America. We are always looking for more sponsors of this podcast in order to reach more people, in order to continue to provide content, in order to grow the game of football in Alberta, and to amplify the voices that are behind it, whether it be the coaches, parents, refs, volunteers, players, and of course, everyone involved at Football Alberta who works so hard to continue to bring us this amazing game year in and year out for so many years. So if you're interested in helping us out and being a sponsor of the podcast, please reach out via our Instagram at Alberta Football Uncensored. Please enjoy the show. Welcome to Alberta Football Uncensored. I'm your host, Tej Johannesson. With me, as always, is my co-host, Omari Fraser. Omari, I went on a walk today. I got to tell this story. So I thought this was, I kind of had an epiphany today. So I go for these walks. I live in a really beautiful area of Sylvan Lake and really quiet. And I like to kind of go for walks by myself. My wife's a teacher. So I coach at HJ Cody here in Sylvan Lake, but I'm not a teacher. I'm a community coach. I run some businesses out of my home. So I get to be home and work, which is awesome. But I like to go for these walks. And the reason why I go for these walks, there's some really cool things that happen when you go for walks. Your body kind of releases these like feel good chemicals and hormones that kind of allow you to do some cool things. So what I started noticing on these walks is you'd be walking and you start feeling good, pretty close to after right when you start to feel it. And then what happens is your mind kind of opens up and these thoughts start coming in your head, and it's always positive thoughts. I've never, I could be having a bad day and I go for one of these walks, and whatever it is, your mind kind of just opens up, and it's almost hard to explain, but you almost like your mind is basically ready to figure out whatever issues you need to figure out. And what I find is it just kind of tells you what to do. And so I'll just start walking, and then, you just thoughts start coming in your head, and I've had some of my best coaching ideas, whether it be schemes or plays, business ideas on these walks. And so I enjoy them quite a lot, actually. And I would suggest anyone else to try this. But what I found today is I was walking, and sometimes I set intentions. So sometimes on game day specifically, like tomorrow we play Notre Dame, big game for us. And I'll set the intention of I want to think about the game. I want to think about football in general. And then those thoughts will come to me. But today I didn't set any intentions, and I do this more often than not. And I just started kind of walking, and the thoughts that started coming to me happened to be football related. But what I realized quickly is I started to feel really grateful for football, and I started to feel really excited for practice, to go to practice later today, or earlier today now, but during that time later today. And for me, I'm a kind of a person that I want to know why. So if I feel excitement for something, I don't want to just feel the excitement. I want to kind of dig deeper and feel like, why am I feeling excited? What about it makes me excited? So when I started kind of thinking these thoughts and feeling excited about practice, I started asking myself, why am I excited about practice? And what I realized really quickly, I thought was really, powerful for myself, because I've never thought of it maybe in this way directly. But it had nothing to do with wins or losses. And don't get me wrong, anyone that knows me understands that my competitive drive is extremely high. I want to win at everything that I do. But I wasn't thinking about winning the game tomorrow. I wasn't thinking about game planning. I wasn't thinking about formations or scouting or anything like that. I was just thinking about the fact that I get to go be around a bunch of people and a bunch of kids that that I really care about, and being with coaches that are my friends that I enjoy being around. And I started just kind of being like, that's such a powerful thought in my own mind, because I try to practice gratitude as much as I can. It's not always easy, but I realized in that moment that the things that matter to me most are the people that I'm around, the people that I get the privilege to be around when I'm coaching. And for me, I just thought, if we want to be the best coaches, if we want to be the best teammates, it's impossible to not be that when you're full of gratitude for the people that you're around. Like, it's impossible to not love and care and give everything that you can for your teammates and your coaches or your players if you're a coach, if you're grateful for the people that you're around. And I wanted to share that on the podcast to start today, because it was a moment for me that, like I said, on this walk, that it just kind of came to me. And like I said, I would suggest anyone to try this. Like, just go out for a walk by yourself, leave your phone at home, find a peaceful, kind of quiet, calm place, and just allow whatever thoughts come to you, and then start thinking about it. I don't know if that's something you've ever experienced, Amari, but I thought that was a cool moment. And it was funny because I knew we had our podcast tonight, and I wanted to kind of share that and maybe open it up for other people.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that, how that sounds. And it sounds, I relate to that a lot, just with how it feels, where you ever get stuck on like a problem, or like you're working on your car, or like a puzzle, and you're just like, can't you need to come back to it?
Mm-hmm.
Like a walk, like what you just mentioned, really hits home for, being one of those like other activities I can do, to where then I can, like, my brain will just like unlock what to do next, or I figure out what to do next, then come back to it. And yeah, that's what I got out of that, just with how I think of, I'm sure there's problems and, different things in life that that happen. And I think it's a good reminder for everyone just to like take a step back, do something else, exercise some gratitude, and come back to, the task at hand that you're working through.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. Like, and I said, I've done it for business stuff and other situations. And I think the key that I've learned, and I know this sounds kind of woo-woo, and anyone that knows me, I know, Amari, you like to talk about my pregame rituals and all the weird stuff that I have, and my little natural medicine cabinet that I take to all my games and stuff. And it is I'm a big believer in the universe and these types of things, which some people can be as a little woo-woo. But I find that when you got to get away, right? Like, if you're having that mental block, you're having that work block, whatever it might be, work, school, you're stuck on a homework assignment, you just can't figure it out. Go for a walk for half an hour and don't think about it, and just kind of let it come to you. And it's amazing what our brains are capable of. So just a cool story that I kind of wanted to share with people, and maybe that can help someone along the way. So, moving on to our episode, I'm really excited today for a number of reasons. We have a guest on that we've wanted to get on for a long time. He's actually a sponsor of our show. And it just so happens he's got a big game this week, and is head coach of the Strathmore Spartans. So I'm really excited to talk to the head coaches of the Strathmore Spartans and the Chestermere Lakers, as well as a couple of players from each team. So hopefully we've got some good questions and some good answers coming up for everyone, and the podcast will kind of take us where they take us. So let's get into it. We'll actually start with you, Dan. So Danny is the head coach of the Strathmore Spartans. He's also I've been my teammate in the past with the Calgary Wolfpack in the Alberta Football League. I've known Danny for a very long time. He actually knocked my team out of provincials last year in a good game, high scoring game, and made it to provincials last year with the Strathmore Spartans, ultimately falling short to powerhouse Holy Rosary. Danny is also a sponsor. His company, Warwick Grain Carriers, was our very first sponsor to come on with our podcast. So we're very happy to have him, and very thankful for his help. So Danny, I'll start with you. Kind of give your brief football story and kind of what led you to being head coach of the Strathmore Spartans.
Well, I started actually playing football in Chestermere for their Bantam program. At the time, we didn't have a team here in Strathmore. Next year, we got a team here in Strathmore. I finished off Bantam, and then went to high school here in Strathmore, and also did a year in Okotoks at Foothills Comp. And then I spent 4 years with the Calgary Colts. Plenty of time on the bench. Got to watch some great coaches like Keith Kendall, Rob McNabb, Adam Bossetti, Tom Frazani, Corey Allison, to name a few. So picked up a few things from them. After that, I played men's league football for a long time for the Calgary Wolfpack. And in about 2016, I came back to Strathmore. I got asked by the current head coach at that time was Travis Gorski. He played football for the U of S Huskies for 5 years, kind of when they're on their Vanier run there, and they're losing every year in the Vanier. So started off as a receivers and running back coach, and then worked up to offensive coordinator, then kind of got into the special teams, and then last year was my first year as the head coach.
Awesome. And Scott, same question for you. What's your kind of football background, and what led you to the Chestermere Lakers?
So I grew up in Athabasca, Alberta, and I played at Edwin Park Composite in Athabasca. Unfortunately, they don't have a program anymore, but I got a great intro to football playing in Athabasca there. We were a 8 to 12 high school. In grade 8, I was able to practice with the team and kind of be the water boy and equipment manager on game day. And then being a tier 4 team, I was able to play from grade 9 through 12. So we didn't have any minor football there, but I got a chance to start playing in the 9th grade and really loved it. From there, I went to the U of A and played for Jerry Friesen was the head coach, and Tim Princeton was the offensive line coach. I played for the U of A for 2 seasons, and then I had some academic struggles, and I took a year off of school and did some working and did some upgrading, and I spent 3 years with the Edmonton Wildcats in the CJFL and the PFC. I played for Gary Durchuk the first year, and then Darcy Park took over my second and third year as the head coach. And Greg Tishka was our offensive line coach there. And then I went back to U of A for 2013 and 2014, and that was the start of Chris Morris's tenure at U of A. And Tim Princeton was the O-line coach again. So similar to Danny, being exposed to a lot of different coaches, I took a little bit from everybody that I had a chance to play for. I knew, I was hopeful to maybe get a chance to play in the CFL, and it didn't quite work out that way. But I knew when it looked that way that there was, I knew I wanted to get into coaching. So I got my teaching degree when I went back to school, and a job in Chestermere came up, and I applied on it, and the rest is kind of history. So the first year, I coached the offensive line. Brian Utley, who coached that program for, I think, close to 40 years. He was the head coach my first year. Then he retired, and myself and a gentleman by the name of Brent Legault were co-head coaches. That second year, I sort of handled the on-the-field stuff and the offense, and he handled more of the administrative stuff and the defense. And then he took assistant principal job at Langdon School, and I sort of took over the rest of the program. In 2017, I believe I became the head coach at Chestermere.
That's awesome. And I just have a question. So what year did you play for the Wildcats?
So I was with the U of A for 2008 and 2009. And then 2010, 11, and 12, I was with the Wildcats. And then 13 and 14, I was back with the Bears.
Okay, yeah, because I didn't recognize your name, and I was on the 09 Wildcats team that went to the national championship.
I would have played against you.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Wow. Jeez.
That was my last junior game when you guys knocked us out in 09.
The Sooners?
No, the Colts. I was with the Colts.
Oh, you were with the Colts. Yeah, we played the Sooners in the whatever you call the semifinal of the national thing. Yeah, yeah. And Gary was the coach then, and he'd been there doing that for a long time. And then I know Darcy took over, and now they've got Kevin Withrich down there, who I played with as well. So we called him Cash back in the day. So he's hopefully going to do a good job down there. I've got a bunch of my kids that have gone to the Wildcats, so close to my heart down there. Jacob, we'll start from you. So Jacob is a mostly corner, plays a little bit elsewhere for the Strathmore Spartans. Jacob, talk to me about your football story. What got you into football and your path to where you are now?
Okay, so basically, I started a bit later actually. So I didn't play any Bantam or Pee Wee. So pretty much, I have a really good friend on the team now. So he wanted me to join my grade 10 year. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to. But he kept talking. I eventually persuaded my parents, and I was able to get around the team. I started kind of practicing with them in grade 10, started working on it. And then, my first year was my grade 11 year. And, pretty much. I started at receiver in our spring camp. Didn't do so well. Eventually got moved to DB, and, that's pretty much it. And I've been there ever since, really.
So you've only been this year, grade 12 now. So this is just your second year of football ever?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And you play corner, and, all corners are close to my heart because I'm a corner at heart as well. And I understand the amount of maybe disrespect that really good corners get, and people don't truly understand what it means for a defensive coordinator defense to have a really good corner. So corners are always just this close to my heart. I think it's one of the hardest positions in all the sports to play. Gage, receiver, Chestermere Lakers, also a member of Omari's Raw Camps. If anybody wants to check out those Raw Camps, and Omari is a part of that, and they do a really good job. Same question for you, man. Your story and what led you to where you are now.
So the first year I started playing was in grade 9. Same thing with Jacob. I had a friend who also hadn't played, but he wanted to get into it, and he just wanted me to join with him. So we ended up joining together. This one was like the COVID year, so we had to split the bantam team, and I think it was 9-on-9. And so we had 2 different Chiefs teams, and it was funny. Me and that player that wanted to join together, we got put on different teams. So we never got to or anything like that. But it didn't matter. I really liked the game. I started out as a running back, and I was not that good of a running back. I was like fumbling every drive, but that's okay. We got switching positions. After worked with a couple of people from the team at receiver. So I used to play receiver, and then Team Alberta was coming with I guess it'd be summer games, I think now, with the County Colts and the Stamps and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that team, and that was my first ever game playing receiver. I didn't play much in that game, but it was fun. It was fun and stuff like that. And I really fell in love with being a receiver. And then after that, I think it might have been that year. No, it was the next year. Yeah, and then coming into grade 10 with the Chestermere Lakers, came up as a receiver. Didn't get much playing time in the beginning, but at the end, I think I stepped up and started getting a lot more reps and stuff like that. And then, again, tried out for Team Alberta, like the actual Team Alberta this time. And that's where I met Amari, because the Raw group was doing the combine at the time. And that's where I met Raw, and then we just kind of talked since. And I've been with them ever since. I wouldn't change a thing with them. After that, grade 11 year, that went well. That was fun. That was a good year. I've missed it. I missed the team. After the grade 10 year in spring, there was a spring team, and that was the Stamps team. Got changed this year to the Chestermere Chiefs, where I met Coach Danny. He was our wide receiver coach. We won back-to-back Division II titles. And then after that, tried out for Team Alberta, finally made a Team Alberta team at Team Alberta Blue. And now we're here.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you've had quite a bit of action in your short football career, and it's cool. Like what I love so much about the Alberta football scene is just how many people have connections. And so, as you heard, even though Danny coaches Strathmore, he's coached Gage, and he's met Omari. So it's really cool to have you on the podcast, and we're looking forward to this. Danny, we'll start with you. So we're going to talk about your game this week. So this is kind of cool for us. Last week, unfortunately, we couldn't work out the schedule to get Chinook on with the HGA, which ended up being an unbelievable game. Chinook took that by 1 point and is now the number 1 team in the province. So really glad that we had HGA on there. But now we have both teams, and so this is going to be kind of cool. So we're going to get into this game. We'll start with you, Danny. Last year, you guys took a huge step forward, making it all the way to the Tier 3 provincial championship game. I think you probably surprised a lot of people. I know, being a Tier 3 coach myself, I wasn't really paying much attention to Strathmore, and then all of a sudden you kind of kept popping up in the rankings and popping up, and then you made it all the way to the Tier 3 championship, obviously losing to powerhouse Holy Rosary. They got their first Tier 3 title there. How are you using that to fuel this season? What have you seen so far out of your group? It seems you've gotten even better this year. You're continuing to win games and win by a pretty decent amount. You've moved up to Tier 2 now with a little bit of school growth. So what are you preaching to your players this year as far as your goals again of reaching a provincial final? How are you really building off of last year?
Well, we're using that bad loss in the provincials as a learning experience. I mean, it was our first time in the dance. I mean, this program's never even sniffed it before till last year, and I mean, we kind of went into it not knowing what to expect, and it didn't work out too well for us. So we've tried to learn from that last year, and I mean, at the end of the day, we probably didn't work hard enough, and and study hard enough with our opponents to give them a better game. And I mean, that's kind of been the mandate this year, man. Hard work, don't quit, all that kind of stuff. Like, we keep it simple here. But I mean, I never want to see guys quitting. I never want to see them unprepared and all that.
And with your move to tier 2, obviously tier 2 is kind of a powerhouse this year. I mean, you've got really good teams in that tier 2 group. You've got George McDougall. Hunting Hills from Red Deer is going to be no joke. Like, we just played them last week. That is a very good football team. Of course, you've got HTA, you've got Chinook, who just beat them. So how are you kind of navigating that? Because you're definitely, even though you've moved up, you're still quite small for tier 2, right?
Yeah, so we've kind of bounced around from tier 2 and 3 over the last half decade.
Okay.
There's been some rule changes. I know last year they took the 3-year average, so that bumped us down to 3, and then they got rid of that. We're a tier 2 school now. We actually have a large international student population at the school here. We get about 150 kids from out of country that come here to go to school. So that's usually what moves us up into tier 2, and we actually got a couple kids that are international students on the team this year.
And how many returners do you have from last year? How many did you lose, I guess I should say?
We lost about 9 guys that were starters, which is not unusual. So we got a fairly veteran team. We got some inexperience and some youth in some spots, but I've been pretty happy with the guys' performance and work ethic so far. And I mean, tier 2 is no joke. There's some good teams in there. They've definitely, we've been winning some games, but we haven't really had any games against tier 2 teams, right?
Right. Yeah. And Coach Scott, you guys, I looked at your score there. Obviously, a super close game, but 1 point. You can't get any closer than that against Burt Church. I know those losses can be disheartening for players, especially young people who maybe can't kind of compartmentalize what that means, and that you lose by 1 point. There's actually obviously a lot of really good things you can take out of that, but it's hard to maybe see that right away. What was your message to your players following that 1 point loss, following the game?
Well, the message was, and it's kind of continued this week. Like, we play 48 minutes, but 150-ish snaps of football in a game, but it typically boils down to somewhere between 5 and 7 plays that are really like meaningful in a game. That game in particular, we scored with about 50 seconds on the clock to be down by 1, and we made the decision to go for 2, and we had the ball in our hands, and the DB drove and made a great play and knocked it out. And we put ourselves in a position that it really was one snap that mattered. But the message was like, I love this team. I trust this team. I would make that decision 10 times out of 10 if given the choice again. And we need to do a better job going forward of making sure that we take advantage of the 5 to 7 plays throughout the game, so that we don't have to focus on the very one last play of the game kind of deal. So it seems like the message has been received, and we've been, had a pretty good little week of practice here and got some good prep in, but it is tough, with those close games. It can definitely be disheartening. But I think, we've rebounded pretty well.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good point with you. I love the idea to go for 2 when you're down 1. I mean, for me, it says I trust my players. I trust my players to be successful, and even if they don't make it, I think that trust. I know as a player myself, like I just would love that from my coach. Like trust us to get this done. So I think that I just love that decision all around. I think almost always, because I think putting trust into your players is extremely important. Even if it doesn't work in the short term, I think in the long term, it's extremely valuable.
One
thing I
wanted to add in there for Danny, who said you got some international students who are playing with you. What's that experience been like? Showing the game to international students coming into, I guess, our culture here in Alberta, and showing them the game of football. What's that been like, and any challenges there, and what are some things that you're excited to see with them?
Well, thinking back over the years, the 8 years I've been there, we usually have 1 or 2 every year. Sometimes there's some language barriers. That would be one of the challenges. But the two guys I got right now, Tejon Park and Gael Reyes, they work hard. They do a good job. They're both key players on our team. Park is a linebacker. He's an outstanding linebacker. Never played football till he got here in grade 10. And then Gael, same thing. He plays defensive halfback and never played a down of football. Didn't even really know what it was. But I mean, these kids, they work and they're always at practice. I've never had any issues with them that way.
And that's exciting to see. And with them coming from their outside countries and cities, to hear, what do you find there's a different mentality that they bring to I guess them learning the game, or just their approach to it?
They definitely ask a lot more questions, I would think. They're very intrigued by the game, and they want to know as much as possible.
Nice. That's super exciting. I guess it's awesome for the growth of our sport to see it grow and bring people in and have them play our game. And I think what's even exciting with that is, I'm sure has there ever been any athletes to have either gotten other opportunities at junior or university to continue playing football?
As of now, we haven't. I think this Tejon Park, he has a shot to play some junior football if that's the path he chooses.
That's awesome.
That's such an interesting mindset. That's a great question, Amari. And I think, like, thinking about that myself, like seeing the game through their eyes, probably never seen it before. And football is pretty weird if you haven't seen it before, right? Like it's actually kind of strange. So and I'm sure that helps you a lot, Danny, just especially with the language barrier. You got to be a little bit more careful with your communication and explaining things. And that can only help you as a coach as well, I'd imagine.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, coaching football and being around the kids has definitely been a learning experience for me, and it still is every day, man.
Yeah.
I mean, kids are a lot different than when I grew up, and I'm always learning something new. So
that is the truth. Yeah, we're different, and that's okay. And we got to figure out how to handle all that. Coach Scott, moving into this week. Obviously, you're playing Strathmore, a very good team, a very good opponent. What are you focused on most with your group this week? Like in practice, what have you really been stressing this week? And what is the biggest challenge that you've seen that the Spartans give you guys?
Well, I got a chance to coach with Danny this past spring. I was on that chief staff as well. And, just getting to know Danny throughout that process and kind of developing a collaborative friendship. We, we're back and forth texting and sending each other clips and stuff every chance we get. And just having gotten to know Danny and hearing him preach work ethic and toughness, like this is going to be a physical game. We played Medicine Hat High early in the year in an exhibition game. And, they definitely out-physicaled us early on. And my message to the kids for, since we kind of turned the page last week is this is going to be as physical a team as we play this year. So that, that's definitely going to be the focus for us and definitely the challenge for us as well, is just the level of physicality and but still being able to, throw the ball down the field and do some things like that while maintaining that physicality.
Yeah, maintaining your identity and matching that physical. I know, from playing Strathmore last year, the physicality really wore us down. It was just, you get to that second half and it starts to wear on you, and it really did with us, especially their power running game, and was a big advantage over our kind of smaller team here in Sylvan. So I know that's probably going to always be the mantra they bring and the identity they bring, especially knowing Danny as a player as well. And he's the exact same way there. Danny, big win last week. You guys beat a team you beat in last year's provincial playoffs. It was a close game in the playoffs. You absolutely handled your business this week, 41-0. So how do you keep your team focused after a game like that? Like when like you said, you haven't played some of these big schools yet. You know, when push comes to shove, come to the provincial playoffs, zone playoffs, all this stuff, you're going to be faced with adversity. You're not going to be having 41-0 games. So how do you keep your guys focused? What are you doing within your practice, within your culture, within your system to make sure that these guys understand that football is not going to be, you know, always easy. You're going to be faced with adversity, and how do we handle that in those situations?
Well, I mean, speaking for this week, it's quite easy. I mean, Chestermere, Strathmore, man, that's like the Hatfields versus McCoys. If you can't get up for this game, you probably can't play on my football team, man. Like, this is a rivalry game. You know, Strathmore and Chestermere, whether it's hockey, football, baseball, they've been going back and forth at each other for a long time, and it's somewhat friendly rivalry, but it's still a rivalry in that matter. And I mean, I'm always preaching, obviously hard work and physicality. You know, if my team's got nothing, they got to at least be physical, and you know, everything else I can work with. But yeah, it's tough, man, keeping these guys motivated when you haven't played too many close games. We're really trying to, you know, we've had some issues with some weird turnovers in the red zone. We're trying to clean that up. Discipline's been an ongoing issue throughout the year, although I will say it has progressed in a positive way every week. It's gotten better, so I expect that to be keep improving on every week. So.
Yeah, and especially in those close games, obviously discipline is massive. You know, when Coach Scott was talking about game comes down to 5 or 6 snaps, and a lot of times it comes down to 1 or 2 penalties, right? And so keeping them disciplined in those moments, because it is tough. Like, we're all human beings here, and even as coaches, it's hard to stay, you know, the same mindset when you're up in a big game big or down in a game big. And I find it really important, especially for coaches, to maintain even. Like, my kind of mindset is, if somebody couldn't see the scoreboard and they were just watching my team play and watching me, that they would think the game was close, because that's how we're playing, right? And so that's what you try to preach. It's not, obviously it's easier said than done, but hopefully you guys this week get the test you guys are looking for. And obviously with that rivalry, I actually wasn't aware that the rivalry was that big, so that's exciting to hear. It's, you know, we have one with Stettler here in Sylvan Lake, and I know there's a lot of schools that have those rivalries, and it's just extra, right? It brings a little bit up for the guys. So I think that's really important. What's your biggest focus this week with Chestermere? Obviously, you've probably seen film. You know Coach Scott a little bit. What's your biggest focus as a group, and what does Chestermere provide that gives you guys a big challenge?
Well, luckily this last spring, like Scott said, I got the chance to coach with him, and quite a few of the Chestermere Lakers were on that spring team, probably 25 or 30 of them. So at a personal level, I kind of know them fairly well. And I mean, yeah, Scott's got some really good receivers. You know, all 4 of them are good, solid players. Quarterback's got a quick release, and we got to stay disciplined. I mean, they like to run a lot of RPOs, stuff like that. You know, linebackers can't be biting on the first run option, right? They got to stay disciplined on the backside, or there might be a slant from the slot back coming in behind them, but quarterback's going to pull the ball and hit one of their slot backs, right?
I've seen so much RPO in the last 2 to 3 years. It's really making I noticed it as a defensive coordinator. It's really like becoming popular, I think, among the boards. And that's a credit to obviously all the coaches, but the quarterbacks as well. Like, it's not an easy thing to do to run the RPO successfully. We played a team in Hunting Hills last week who ran the RPO brilliantly. It was frustrating because the quarterback just did such a good job of running it, and it makes it so difficult on the defenses. So that is something, if they've got good receivers in a team, it's something that is just, it challenges guys mentally every single rep to kind of hold your ground a little bit, reading that play, and like you said, not maybe reacting to the first thing that they see. Elmar, you got anything for the coaches before we move on to some player questions?
Nothing. Well, here's one question I got, actually. Danny and Scott, so you guys both coach for each other with the Chestermere Chiefs. Now, is there gonna be a point in like I like to call it the Bill Belichick moment where you guys are gonna really try and game plan, knowing each other's decisions and what they're gonna do? I don't want you guys to share that, but just give it like nice little script of like, oh, you gotta have some ideas on what the other person would do, and you would actually plan for that, and then they would plan for you to make that. Like any of those moments coming up here.
Well, I'll just say, Danny and I were chatting the other day, and we've got a gentleman's agreement not to be stealing anybody's signals. It's a lot of the offense that we're running is kind of what we were running with the Chiefs, and I think Danny picked up some of that stuff as well. And like I say, that physicality I think is at Danny's core, and so I know I have a feeling if he's got to get a yard, he's going to be leaning on that, and I'm really excited for the game. And just referencing that Hunting Hills team, that's where I learned a lot of this stuff. I coached on the U18 Team Alberta staff. I was the O-line coach for the last 3 Canada Cups, and Kyle
with Sedgwick, yeah,
the head coach of Hunting Hills is the OC. So
yeah,
that's where I've learned a lot of that stuff was from Kyle. He's been a great mentor for me.
Yeah, and we're gonna have Kyle on the podcast too. Kyle Sedgwick, head coach Hunting Hills. Funny story. Kyle actually coached me. My very first year on the Red Deer Buccaneers, he was the head coach of the Bucks. So he's been doing it a long time. I'm actually a Hunting Hills boy as well. I went to Hunting Hills myself for my grade 10 and 11 year before I moved to Sands Scorpions in North Delta, BC for my grade 12 year. So yeah, that's just another connection. That's cool. Yeah, he's a good mentor to have. He understands the game, and I always enjoy going up against him because he makes me work really hard to try to be in the right positions. But he's got a great quarterback this year. His name's Merrick. He's actually a Sylvan Lake kid, and he ended up out there. And some great receivers. So that Hunting Hills team is no joke in Tier 2. So look out for them. Okay, Danny, anything on that Omari's question?
Yeah, I did coach with Scott, and I learned a lot from him. Some play concepts, and the biggest thing was was teaching these kids the concepts and communicating the concepts. He basically taught me how to play charades with hand signaling in plays to the offense and formations and all that. That was kind of my biggest thing as an OC was having some kind of structure with the playbook and all that, and I picked up a lot of that from Scott this spring, and I guess Kyle Sedgwick is the godfather of that, and it's kind of branched off to Scott and then to me, and who knows who else, right?
I guess Sedgwick's the Belichick of high school football. Then everyone's kind of coming from that tree. So Kyle, if you're listening, that's a pretty cool thing to hear. And I have a ton of respect for him as a coach, and he's, like you said, doing that football Alberta stuff as well. So it's cool to see. We talked about this on the last podcast of the best coaches steal things from other coaches, because the best coaches don't have egos. They're looking to find things that work and then kind of tune it to their own kind of liking. So I think that's really important. All right, Gage, we're going to come to you, buddy. So Lakers receiver, I'd like you to describe to me, as a leader of that team, your offensive mentality. So what do you expect, not only from yourself, but from your teammates, game in, game out, play in, play out? When you watch film after the game, what are your kind of non-negotiables as far as holding your teammates accountable to the things that they need to do correctly?
I would say effort, right? Even if the ball's not coming to you or coming away, you still gotta, there's only one ball. Coach Ledoux and Danny have both said that this to me, that there's only one ball, right? There's only one player that can hit the ball. So whether the ball's coming to you or not, you still got to block. You still got to have effort. One thing that I hold myself to, and I try and hold my offense to, is just to be dominant on the field. Whether it's a run play, like as me myself, if it's a run play, I'm going to block you as hard as I can. I'm going to try and push you all the way to your own sideline and sit you down right next to your coach. That is my job. That is what I'm going to do. If I don't do that, I fail. If my guy makes the tackle on my player, that's my fault. I can't let that happen, right? If it's running the ball, as I don't get, I gotta take hits. I gotta make sure that they feel those hits, and I'll just be the most dominant that I can in the game, whether it be blocking, catching, or anything like that.
That's a fantastic answer, Gage. I would, if we were allowed to recruit in high school, I'd recruit you right now. That's an attitude that I think maybe is missing, especially in receivers. Receivers, they want to catch the ball, they want to get touched.
I love blocking.
Yeah, I can tell, and it's great because
the person in front of me.
yeah, and taking that pride in blocking is huge, right? Being prideful of that skill, and I'll tell you right now, that is something that all coaches look for in people that are willing to do that. So, yeah, that's a fantastic. You hyped me up, Gage. I'm not going to lie to you. You hyped me up for football, and I just by that speech. So great job. Your turn, Jacob. Same kind of question. You're a defensive player. I know you're new to the game. You're probably still really figuring out stuff, as we all are. Some of us are decades into this, and we're all still figuring stuff out about the game. So, best answer you can. But what's your defensive mentality? What do you expect from your teammates week in and week out, and play in and play out?
Honestly, toughness. I would say if there's one word to describe it, would be toughness. Especially playing defense, bad stuff is gonna happen to you, unfortunately. You're gonna make mistakes, and I think the best way to get over that and keep going is just be mentally tough. If you're mentally tough, everything's going to be a lot easier on defense. That's a big part of defense, because something I like to go by, a saying I like to go by that I've heard quite a bit for defense is just water under the bridge, right? Especially at corner. If you let up a catch, you got to just let it go. Just move on to the next play, make it count. Make that next play count. If that ball comes to you again, go get that ball, make a play on that ball, get a turnover, whatever you got to do to make up for that. I think that's definitely something. My teammates,
yeah, go ahead, Betty, keep going.
I think my teammates, it's a thing. I think last year we were quite a tough defense, and I think this year we've really grown, and we're again going to be a very tough defense, very physical. We pride ourselves in, being a good defense, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, toughness is huge, right? And I think if you make that your identity, then you're gonna be successful, at least in a few areas. I love what you said about the DB position. Like I said, as a DB myself, it's you can't get caught up with the mistakes, because you're always going to get an opportunity to make up for that mistake. And it's like golf. Okay, so I'm trying to be a good golfer, and golf is hard. Golf is very, very hard. And I find the hardest part is actually the mental game. You take one bad shot, and then all of a sudden the next 7 are terrible. But if you get one good shot, then the next 6 are good, right? It kind of feeds off it. So I think that's so important, especially as someone who's a DB that is kind of, isolated, and people notice mistakes, right? You can make a mistake on the D line, make a mistake at linebacker, and maybe it goes unnoticed by most people, even people that don't understand the game. But as a corner, as a DB, everybody at that field knows when you made a mistake. And that can be tough, right? It can be a little embarrassing. You can feel, but if you have that mentality, like you said, of hey, please throw it to me again, because I'm not letting that happen again. And my big thing to my guys is just don't make the same mistake twice. Don't fix it and move on, because we can do that. And I think that's great. And I think as an entire unit, and I know from playing you guys last year, your defense definitely embodies what you just said. Mari, I know you've got some. We started a new segment maybe on some scouting trivia. So let's do it. Let's see Jacob engage.
I was about to say, I'm looking here at the at the roster here now, and checking everyone's highlights tape and everything. Let's see here. I'm gonna go to the team part. So this is all based off Huddle now, off of the Huddle roster here. So my question now here for Gage is gonna be on the cornerback side, on who on. Let's see, number. Here we go. What position does number 15 play on Strathmore?
Is that Bodie? Or on corner? Would that also be Gage?
I guess there's all this. I see 2 here, so I guess there's 2 answers. It's all good. This is nothing. I guess with the Huddle, it's not the most accurate here, but with what who you're going to be going against in front, who's that destined to be? Is that going to be Jacob here, or who do you think?
It's
going to be Jake. we gotta
Jacob. I better be going against Jacob. I want the best on best.
Yeah, I like that.
Of course, and now, because I always want to keep this a positive thing, I never want to do anything to where you bring each side down. So what's going to be some aspects to your game. Jacob, I'm going to ask you this too now. So for Gage first, what part of your game do you feel like you get to really be on top of to make sure you get wins on your matchup against Jacob? Jacob, you're going to have a chance to answer back as well. So I'll have Gage here go first.
I got to say my speed. I have to say my speed. I think my speed is one thing that's going to keep me on top of this a lot.
Yeah, I think that's one thing I know from coaching you, and from the raw camps, and to see your development, everything, and all the work you put in. This speed is definitely a big asset that you have, and I mean, I think all of us here watch the Miami Dolphins torch Denver Broncos. They have like a track team running their offense there, so speed definitely hits. Right, and then Jacob. Now knowing, I think we all know Gage has some of the top speed in the province. What's going to be your game plan now? Planning with the defense here to be going in with that to best defend against it, knowing that and knowing that that's a tool that he has in his belt. What's going to be some things that you are going to be keen on to work with?
Man, I'm gonna be physical. Every single snap, it's gonna be physical. Man, I'm gonna be pressing every single time. I'm gonna be getting hands on the line. It's gonna be physical all night.
That's awesome. We love to hear it, and I think this is the beautiful thing with football, where someone wins, someone loses, but we all learn lessons to get up at the end of the day and keep playing. And this could be a game here where maybe there's a 9-ball that Gage catches. It could be a slant that Jacob intercepts. You never know. That's the beautiful thing of football, where you guys can get a chance to battle. And I think this is quite unique, where you guys had a chance to, politely talk each other's skills up and everything they do really well. And on the flip side of that, here's one quick thing I want to ask each of you guys. So, outside of what you already answered, Jake, will have you go first. What's one area of your opponent's game that you want to compliment? Right, because I feel like there's always that part of the game where you never fear someone, but you respect their game and you understand, like, hey, this is what they're good at, and you want to respect it. What's an aspect of Gage's game that you respect? And then Gage, I'm gonna ask you now, what's an aspect of Jake's game that you respect?
His speed definitely, and his route running. I did the raw field prep camp with him this summer, so I've definitely seen his route running, and I'm gonna say he's gonna be one of the best receivers in that category that I'm gonna go against all year.
Nice. Engage for you.
Thank you, Jacob. I just want to say his hips. I would say he has really fluent hips. Like, it's really whenever I flip his hips, he can turn them back almost right away. I want to say that's honestly impressive. Like, I find it really impressive.
And that's a big compliment coming from a receiver, because I always say if you want to ask about DBs, ask the receivers who go against them, and vice versa, right? Because those guys truly know, like, deep in their heart, even if they maybe don't want to admit it, they know who those guys are. So that's cool to hear.
That's awesome. And here's other question I got, because I know I've talked to Gage about this in the past. Pre-game meals. Now, who wants to go first? Or Jacob, Gage, what's your guys' ideal pre-game meal that you're bringing tomorrow for lunch, which then is going to help fuel you for the game time?
Is the game tomorrow or Friday? Just let's be clear on that.
Friday.
It's Friday. Yeah.
Friday, okay. So what's going to be Friday's lunch or pre-game snack?
Gage, you want to go first?
I'll go first. I always gotta go with the Subway. The Subway never disappoints. It never disappoints. I also take a can of Gorilla Pump, because I got on the dig for the game too.
What? This guy. I gotta take some Gorilla Pump because I gotta look big for the game. No, you gotta take the Gorilla Pump so that hopefully Jacob can't press you as easily, right? A little more. That's so funny, Gorilla Pump. We are not sponsored by Gorilla Pump, anybody, just so you know. But if Gorilla Pump wants to sponsor us, hit us up.
And then, I guess, to finish up that, Gage, what's your Subway order?
I might get like a little bit roasted on this. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of plain. So it's Italian or white bread, and it's salami, cheese. Then we get some pickles, some cucumbers, some lettuce, some tomatoes, and we're getting the mayo and the soy sauce.
Okay. So that's the secret to being fast.
Yeah,
It's that pickle
Yeah.
juice, man. Keeps you from cramping.
really fun.
That's the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life, honestly. I got to look big for the game. Oh my God.
And Jacob, what's gonna be your pregame meal?
Honestly, I'm gonna wake up in the morning. I'm gonna pop a protein shake, make sure I got some protein in me for the game. Then I'm gonna have a banana. And Danny's gonna hate me for this one, but I'm gonna get a wrap at Tim Hortons.
Danny doesn't like the wraps?
No, just Tim Hortons in general.
Okay.
Tim Hortons is terrible, man.
Tim Hortons. Danny's got a strong opinion about Tim Hortons. That's funny. We were also not sponsored by Tim Hortons, and I don't think we're going to be now.
And then Jacob, did you get any kind of wrap, or is there a particular, like, are you a farmer's wrap?
Oh, I'm a farmer's wrap.
Yeah. Nice.
Well, at least you're supporting the farmers, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. Those are, honestly, guys, you actually had me LOLing out loud, so that's really good. God. Coach Scott, that's just too good. Oh man, you never know. Hey, we've been doing this podcast a long time. We never kind of know where it's going to go. We kind of have a baseline of things we want to talk about, but I definitely didn't think that. But that's amazing. Everybody here listening is now like Googling Gorilla Pump because they're like, man, I want to. Okay, Coach Scott, talk to me about Chestermere, because I'm not going to lie to you, and I'm not saying I'm not great with geography. I haven't really heard of the place up until maybe kind of seeing that you guys had a football team. Definitely never been there. I know you're called the Lakers. We're called the Lakers here in Sylvan Lake. We actually have a lake. I don't know if you guys have a lake. So one, do you guys actually have a lake? And two, talk to me about the town. What's great about the town? What's special about that area? And kind of sell the town a little bit, because I think there's a lot of people that maybe haven't been there or heard of it.
You know what? I'm not going to hold it against you. I had never heard of the town until I was pointed in the direction of the job posting, and I didn't really have anything holding me in Edmonton or Athabasca, and I was looking to get into teaching and coaching, and I applied, and I came down here and I got the job. And we do have a lake. Our school is not right in town, so my in-laws have a cabin in Sylvan right on Lakeshore there, so it's not quite the same type of lake. It's smaller than in Sylvan, but we're just sort of east of Calgary, kind of like a lot of commuters into Calgary for work from Chestermere. Our school is just east of town, about halfway between Calgary and Strathmore, or a little bit closer to Calgary than Strathmore. We're sort of in the middle of a field. Where our school is, once upon a time, Chestermere was a small community, and the school services Chestermere, Indus, and Langdon, and where the school is, if you were to just draw a line connecting those three communities, is basically right dead center where those lines intersect. So it presents its own challenges. We're just far enough out of town that we don't actually have water plumbed out to the school. We have to bring water in by trucks to run our school.
Crazy.
That leads to its own challenges with trying to maintain our playing field. But the community itself is great. We like I said, we get kids from Langdon and Chestermere and Indus. So we've kind of got three communities that feed our school. Chestermere, the city of Chestermere, has grown a lot. It was quite large by the time I got here in 2016, but the population has grown significantly, and we're still sort of a rural school that is servicing one of the fastest growing cities in Alberta. So the school has had a transformation in the last 20 to 25 years. But the community has been very welcoming. There are a lot of people, with it being a smaller school, there are still some people who grew up in the area and then taught and coached in the area, and there's a lot of community support. We do our Friday Night Lights game every year, which is kind of typically our first home game after school has started, and we've got two pretty good sized sets of bleachers and lights, and we pack that place up, man, and there's a great turnout for those games, and some great support from the community. So it's a great place to teach. I don't live in the community anymore. In the community anymore, but it's a great place to teach. It's a great place to coach, and I really love that I sort of ended up down here.
That's awesome. Gage, you got anything specific? Are you in Chestermere? Like where are you residing? And tell me a little bit about the town.
Yeah, I live in Chestermere. It's a good town, great town. Everyone knows each other and stuff like that. So like the entire football team, you know, everyone knows each other. Everyone likes each other and stuff like that. And I think we're really close, and we respect each other as players and as people as well.
Yeah, and I think that's what's cool about those small communities, right? Is you I think it's maybe a gift and a curse that everybody knows everyone, because so like as I'm finding out, my wife is a teacher here in Sylvan Lake. We've now been here for 7 years, and I've been coaching for pretty much all those 7 years. And at this point, we can't go anywhere in the town without somebody seeing us and wanting to talk to us, whether it be students or whatever, which can get a little bit like, man, I just want to get my groceries. So I think
Yes.
there's a gift and a curse to that, if you'd agree.
Yeah, I think as long as you like respect each other and like, obviously don't gossip about each other, I think it'd be a great gift.
Yeah, that's the key, right? Yeah, be respectful to people, and you should be okay. Yeah, that's cool. I love the small town. You know, personally, I always want, like, it's nice living in Sylvan Lake. It's nice being close to the big towns, but I don't think I could ever actually live in a big town. I enjoy kind of the small town community. Coach Scott, I wanted to ask you. You have a new coach on your staff this year named Jarrett Burzak. I call him Burzy. Him and I have known each other for a very long time. We've played Red Deer Buccaneers together in the Alberta Football League. I've known him through coaching in Central Alberta. He's been a big part of coaching football in Central Alberta and the Red Deer area, especially with the quarterbacks. How's he been with you? How has Coach Burzak been in his first year with you guys, and what is he kind of bringing to the table for you guys?
You know, we've done a good job, I think, as a program of sort of trying to bring coaches into our program. We're up to, we're just outside of Calgary enough that it's hard for people to get out for practice all the time. So, we're up to 12 coaches now that are at varying levels of commitment. And I've gone out and I've done some recruiting for coaches. I could not have been luckier than to have Coach Burzy fall into my lap. He has been so valuable for our program already. He comes with a great passion for the game. He's a guy that I can bounce ideas off of all day. And he was involved with that Hunting Hills program. So he conceptually knows a lot of the stuff that we're trying to do already. There's a lot of value in having a quarterback guy who has played quarterback and is not an old retired O-lineman who's trying to teach the quarterback. So, So it has been so valuable for our program to get him in our building and get him, working with our kids and, bringing another perspective and bringing in, a refreshing new attitude and all of our coaches do a great job, but it's been a very valuable addition for our program. Definitely.
Yeah. And I can echo those sentiments, having known him for, oh my goodness, probably 10 years now. Great human being, great person, and is just full of love in his heart, cares about the people he works with, the kids that he coaches. And I wanted to ask about him because I knew that you'd probably say something like that because I know how he is. So shout out to Coach Burzy. If you're listening, I think it's really important to make sure we mention coaches along the way as well, who sometimes, especially if they're assistant coaches, maybe don't get as much recognition as some of the head coaches. Players, this is going to be this. Oh, go ahead, Omari.
Yeah, I guess it shifts to the players here. I want to sort of I guess this is a quick question. So for Gage and Jacob, what's your favorite, around the academic side, what's your favorite topic in school right now? And just to dive in on the school side of things, how are you guys, balancing school and football? Because we always hear taking care of academics and school and everything, but it's just a quick blurb on how you guys are finding the season and how you guys balancing everything. Jacob, you can go first.
Okay. So It hasn't been hard for me at all. I mean, I only have one core this semester, so it's been quite easy. I've just been keeping up with my English, and that's been about it.
Nice, nice. And engage for yourself.
You have one. Well, I have 5 classes right now, and 3 of them are course. Like, yeah, it is difficult, but it's definitely doable. I mean, I don't get much free time, and the time that I get to myself, I like to spend it with family and friends and like stuff like that. So, but it's definitely doable as long as you make sure you set your stuff out, make sure you know when you're doing the stuff when you're supposed to be doing it and stuff like that. Just making sure you have it laid out and you're following what you want to do and stuff like that. It's challenging.
Awesome. Awesome. And I know this question is going to come in a bit. I'll give you guys a bit of time to answer, and I'll hand it back to Tej. But, I'm sure you guys have plans to play. Hopefully, you guys have plans to play football after high school. And just in a bit, we'll get the answer to this question on what programs you're looking at, if there's any advancements there. But I'll give it to Teacher first, let you guys simmer on that thought, and then we'll come back to the schools here.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Teach.
Yeah.
Did you know that Coach Brucey can snap, like long snap?
No, I actually did know that. Yeah, no. And here's what's funny is that a lot of quarterbacks can, because it's just throwing the ball from the ground.
Like I was being out and stuff like that. I wanted to learn how to long snap just to get more utility and maybe like do something with it. But yeah, he just comes up to me. He's like, "You're doing this, and you should do this." And then I'm like, "He showed me," and he takes the ball and he just throws it back. And I'm like, I thought you were a QB coach. Like,
no, yeah. No, I had a player a couple years ago named Brett Bilsma, who was actually I coached him for a number of years, and then I actually got to play with him this past year with the Buccaneers. And he is a great quarterback, great long snapper. This is a thing quarterbacks can do, and we actually used him. I used him as my snapper on punt, but I made him eligible. So I made him the tight end on punt, but he was also the snapper. We just aligned everyone else to the right of him. And we ran a play where he snapped it to the punter, and then he ran a corner route, and we threw it to him for a touchdown. So it was punter to snapper, which was kind of really cool. So haven't been able to do that since, because we didn't have a snapper that could run like that. But yeah, the quarterbacks can do that. And I did know that about Bursey. So he's got talents that maybe people don't know.
yeah.
For both players, and Jacob, you can start with this one. And you're new to this. Obviously, you're second year playing football. Clearly, you love it. Clearly, you've progressed quickly. So what has football meant to you in these 2 years? How has it maybe shaped your life? And is there any lessons that you've learned so far that you can take forward into your life after football?
Definitely hard work and committing yourself to something has been the biggest thing I've learned from this. 100%.
Yeah, and I think that's great, right? I think that's so important, because especially if you're surrounded by good coaches like both of you are, they preach that and they teach that and they hold people accountable. I've said this before, and I'll probably say it many more times, but I think my philosophy as a coach is have a loving environment that's full of high expectations, and with that comes working hard and learning those things. What about for you, Gage? Same question. What has football meant to you, and what lessons have you been able to take that you can take forward in your life?
I mean, for the past 4 years, football has been for the most part my life. It stopped for quite a while now, and I think one thing that I can take away from football is even just it applies to life lessons outside of football. Whatever you're doing, do it to the best of your ability, because you never know when you're going to do it again. If that makes sense. I've my seniors in grade 10, they thought they were gonna do very well, and then they got injured and stuff like that. And I think sometimes you might regret it if you don't try to do the best that you can.
And I think that touches on kind of what we were talking about in our pre-show chatter when I was going on that walk, is just really recognizing how grateful you are for the game. And that's why I asked that question, and we'll ask that question to all the players that come on this podcast, because I think everyone gives a little bit of different insight. But it really all does come down to, and what you just said is gratitude and being grateful to be where you're at, being grateful to show up to practice. I tell my kids all the time, if you're very lucky, if you're very, very, very lucky, you'll play maybe 30 to 40 football games in your entire life. If you're unbelievably lucky and you can move on to the Alberta Football League like I have and play for 22 years straight, maybe you play 100 games, and that's if you don't get injured. That's if you play for 20 years straight. Every single game is, you don't get many of them. And then practices are the same thing. So I think that is kind of basically what you're saying. And I really appreciate that from your perspective too, just being grateful for what you have and, understanding that it can be taken away from you at any moment. Danny, to you, similar question, but from the coaching perspective, what drives you to coach? You've been at this for a while. You've been around football for a very long time. What is your why? What do you consider to be your greatest responsibility as a coach of young men in today's world?
Well, I think for one, I love the game, but the biggest thing is to be a mentor to our youth. I think these days a lot of them lack that mentor that ain't a family member. So try to teach them the right way, man. It's not just football. It translates into life too, right? These kids, anytime they have a question or they're wondering about anything, I always tell them, don't be afraid to ask me, and I'll give you an answer to the best of my abilities.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the game. I haven't spent a year away from it since 1999. So I mean,
Wow.
it's just what I do, whether
Yeah.
it's playing or coaching all these years. And
Yeah.
I think my life would be a little empty if I wasn't involved in the game.
Yeah, and you like me have been fortunate enough to continue playing. We're so fortunate in Alberta to have a league, the Alberta Football League, where players can play past university and junior and keep that love, because I think the sentiment we get across this podcast is, football is quite addicting for so many different reasons. And it is. I think that was really cool what you said, like your life would be kind of empty without it. And I feel that so hard in so many areas. Like I don't even want to think about what my life would be like without football, to be honest with you. Coach Scott, if you could describe your biggest goals as a coach, like when you were finished coaching, whenever that might be, when you just, after your 40 years at Chestermere, when you finish retiring or whatever path you might take into coaching, what do you want people to say about you when you're done? When people bring you up, years and years down the road, this was Coach Scott. What do you want people to think about you as a coach?
Well, I think I hope they think and they remember that I cared and I loved all my players. I'm trying to be intentional about communicating that to our players.
Mm-hmm.
All of the close connections I have, or the majority of the close connections I have in my family, are directly as a result of, in my life, sorry, are directly as a result of my time in football. And not quite as long as Danny, but it's been it's been in my football's been a part of my life for more than half my life now. And some of the coaches that I've had, TG, I'm sure you had your experiences with Coach Park with the Wildcats.
Mm-hmm.
Getting to play for Darcy for 3 years with the Wildcats, and then coach with Darcy on the Canada Cup team this past year.
Cool.
Pete Burden, who was my high school coach, like these are guys that I want to reach out to anytime I have a major life event, and because of the impact they had on me as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully that I have that type of impact on the players that we have come through our program.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And so both players here, Amari kind of touched on it before. Gage, we can start with you on this one, because I think I'm kind of looking forward to this answer based on some of the answers you've already given us. But you pretend I'm a university or junior coach, and you're selling yourself to me. And by the way, there's no judgment of being quote unquote too cocky here. I think that can be a little bit overblown. I think that we should allow kids to feel good about themselves, as long as you're not showing other people up. So sell yourself to me. What do you bring to my team as a university coach? What do you do that makes my team better?
Well, we'll start off with like the more physical and like actual aspects, and then we'll go into like how I think I'm a good teammate and stuff like that. So
Sure.
physically, I think I'm gifted with my athletic ability and stuff like that. I run fast, jump high. Um, like Jacob said, like I have good routes and stuff like that. I think I'm a good football player. I have a lot of confidence in myself as me as a player and as a human and as a teammate and stuff like that. And yeah, and then more into like the teammate side of it is I think I try and uplift those around me, whether that be keeping them in check. Like if some of my players are talking and stuff like that, well, it's like we're supposed to be focusing. Even if it's like scout team, I'll still be like, hey, come on guys, we gotta listen up. You never know your time and stuff like that. And then I think I give good constructive criticism to my receivers and stuff like that as a teammate. I think as a teammate, um, I think I'm there as a teammate because I know as a player, and sometimes like it can be a little hard to talk to coaches and stuff like that, or like coaches will yell at you, and like this is no diss to any of the coaches here, but sometimes you want to talk to your teammate and stuff like that. And I feel like I'm there for teammates I've been with and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think I really like what you said about uplifting the people around you. That is something that I'd expect to hear from coaches, and maybe not necessarily a player, but that's a really mature thing for you to understand. And I think that is a great responsibility that you're clearly taking seriously. And I know that energy rubs off on teammates. And then you're able to kind of demand that respect from them, and they respect when you are going to hold them accountable, because it sounds to me that you hold yourself accountable first, and you're not a guy that's telling another guy to work hard when you're not working hard. So I think that's really important, and that was a really cool answer. Jacob, same question for you, man. I don't know if your goal is to play university football, but let's pretend it is. You're selling yourself to me. What do you bring my team, both on and off the field?
On the field, I think I definitely bring like a gritty special teams kind of play. I really pride myself in trying very hard on all special teams. If that's kickoff or kick return, I definitely think it's one of my strong suits going into this year. And mentality, just being a hard worker and just trying to lead by example, I would say would be my thing.
Yeah, and I like that too, because leading by example, you're putting pressure on yourself. It sounds simple in the concept of leading by example. It's a lot harder to do in real life. So I really like that when people, especially young people like yourself, take that seriously. To lead by example for their team, because it is contagious, and people will come onto that. So yeah, that's a really good answer as well. Before we move on to the last few questions, Omari, anything you want to sneak in there?
Yeah, just with like what schools do Jacob and Gage, you guys have in mind that you like to attend, maybe hear some communication from, or like to try out for, see yourself playing on the next level if that's the goal?
Me and Jacob first. I'll go first. I've heard from quite a lot of schools based on just connections that I have. Like Coach Ledoux playing at U of A, I've talked to Coach Morris. Being in Calgary, I've talked to the Dinos, and then with Raw, I've talked to many other schools, including at their elite camp. There are some universities there, and right now I'm just looking for what best suits me, my interest in post-secondary, and also playing on the field.
Will you spill the beans on the podcast? Where are you going, Gage? I'm just kidding. Don't feel pressure. I'm just bugging you. I'm just kidding, buddy. Maybe one day when you want to make that announcement, let us know. We'll have you on here, and we'll do a reveal.
Do an official hat reveal.
Yeah, we'll do the AFU hat reveal. Jacob, what about you? Any thoughts on that?
It would definitely be cool to continue to play football. I mean, being newer to it, I don't really have the years of experience that other people have, so I'm definitely behind in that regard. But it would be cool to play on the Dinos, definitely. That's where my mom went to school, so it would be cool.
Oh, sweet.
Don't know if it's going to happen, but it would be definitely really cool.
Hey man, by the sounds of it, I think if you put your mind to it, I think you can do anything you really want. I think that's an important thing to understand too, and especially someone that's new like yourself. You're only like, if I'm a coach and I see you right now, and I'm saying, man, the growth potential is just going to be unbelievable.
Yeah, Jake, you had us going into coach mode there. Like, you once you set your mind, you got it. So if that's something that you instead of being like, maybe, like, just say, hey, that's the goal. I'm gonna hunt down. I'm gonna put the work in, get the advice, get the information I need, and hunt that down. You can get that. So, not that we want to force you to make that decision, but just know it's all mindset shift there. I think me and TJ went into coach mode there. Just hearing your answer there.
Definitely. Yeah. Coaches, so I know we kind of want to do some, we're wrapping it up here. But I wanted to ask you both one or two tips that both of you would give to new coaches that are just starting. And if you don't mind, maybe sharing, one kind of philosophy or formation or play that is kind of like you've enjoyed and you like using over the years. Danny, we'll start with you. Any tips for new coaches and any kind of specific maybe formation or play that you might want to share with our listeners?
A few tips for new coaches. I mean, the first one's commitment. If you're going to coach, you got to be there at practice. You got to put in the work and all that. I don't think any player really respects a coach or gets to know him well enough as they should when he's constantly in and out of practice, and you might not see him for a couple weeks and whatnot. I think if you're in this game, you got to be all in. And I know with my coaching staff, I got some really good guys on there that are very committed. They're always at practice. They do the best job they can. Biggest thing with coaching, don't get married to one system. I know as I've grown over the years, especially on the offensive side, don't be married to a system. The players change every year. One year you might have a power team, one year you might have a speed team, and you got to tailor the system to that. And also, if you're coaching offense, just remember plays, concepts are expensive and formations are cheap, right? Don't be afraid to run a variety of different formations and looks for each concept.
I've actually never heard that, but I like that a lot. And I'll tell you, from a defensive coordinator position, there's nothing I hate more than an offensive team that runs multiple formations. I love teams that run 1 to 2 formations. It makes it really easy for me to game plan. So that is actually a great tip. You've run multiple formations, but kind of similar concepts. And I think I agree with that. That's the way to go. What about you, Scott? Tips for new coaches and any kind of insights on your philosophies?
Yeah, I would say that for me, I don't live the most organized life all the time in my personal, and even sometimes hopefully my bosses aren't listening, but my professional life. In order for me to have success in football, I need to be as organized as I can. And it is, the more organized you can be, to make sure you're touching on the things that you need to do throughout a week of practice, to make sure that you have your menu ready for you on game day. Finding a way to keep yourself organized is going to be huge. A lot of times, coaches have come out of, most coaches, not all, but most coaches have come from a playing background. The things that you're running at the school you're at or wherever you're coaching are probably not going to be the same as what you ran when you were a player. So you need to make sure you understand what skills your position group or unit is going to need to do or need to be able to execute, and then build your drill menu with the purpose of being able to accomplish those skills. And if you're a power team, it's maybe not going to be as important that you're really good at blocking laterally. But if you're going to be a wide zone team in the run game, then those are the things that you need to work on. So making sure that the drills and the skills that you're working on match with what you're trying to accomplish on Friday or Saturday or what you're playing is going to be huge as well. Schematically, there's, I sort of have been that guy that Danny's talking about, where I have been relatively married to some things in the past, and it's been a point of growth for me this year. We had some success with some one back power stuff this summer with the Canada Cup team, and And I've tried to get away from being a strictly zone and wide zone guy to spending a little bit more time with moving parts on the O line and in the blocking game, and it's been a fun experiment, and it's been, I think, improvement to our program.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the joy of coaching. I think for me, anyways, especially with the brain that I have, I kind of have an overactive brain. I like the ability to change based on what you have, because it keeps your creative mind going, maybe based on what you've kind of seen from other people. So I think that is really important, of just basically not getting married to certain schemes, especially at the high school level, because you're just the what you have is going to fluctuate a lot from year to year. Okay, that was really good. I appreciate you guys kind of giving us a little insight there. Lastly, we're going to kind of open the mic up quickly for everyone. This is your time. If you'd like to give any shout outs to any of your teammates, any of your players, or anything like that. If you want to say anything about your game coming up on Friday night, Jacob, we'll start with you. Anything you'd like to say to end the podcast? Any shout outs you'd like to give?
All I know is it's going to definitely be a fun game. I mean, it'll be good. I mean, we got some good players on defense. Y'all going to watch out for Porter Zog out there. He's going to go crazy.
All right.
That's pretty much it for me.
Cool, man. Appreciate you being here. Gage, you there? You might be muted. Yeah, you're muted. Okay, we'll wait for Gage to get off of mute. Scott, anything to finish the show?
Yeah, like I said, I'm excited. Danny has become, like I said, a close friend and somebody that I trust to kind of talk about stuff outside of this game. There hasn't been too much collaboration this week, obviously, but we've been sending stuff back and forth and talking through concepts, and it is a rivalry with us being as close together as we are, and it's going to be a fun game for our kids and for the people in the stands. And I'm really looking forward to the game on Friday night.
And is the game in Strathmore or Chestermere?
The game will be in Chestermere this year. We went to Strathmore 2 years ago. We didn't play last year, but we're trying to commit to playing a little bit more regularly than we have in the past. So we'll be in Chestermere this year, and then hopefully Strathmore next year.
Okay, perfect. And Danny, anything to finish the show?
Yeah, like Scott said, I'm really looking forward to Friday night. I went to a game in Chestermere last year, their Friday Night Lights game. I was scouting Bert Church, who we had the week after, and they got a great atmosphere under the lights there. Tons of fans, in the stands and on the sidelines. I'm looking forward to being part of that energy. We don't have lights here in Strathmore, so it'll be cool for my guys to really get that whole Friday night lights experience. And then as for shout outs, I mean, first and foremost, I want to shout out to my family, my wife Vanessa, kids Peyton, Macy, and Rhett. I mean, they support me living the football dream for a few months of the year, which is awesome, and I wouldn't be able to do it if it wasn't for them. And then also like to send a shout out to my coaching staff, Greg Zog, Anthony Timmons, Chad Whitmore, Bob Marlowe, Torrance Clark, Rob Musselman, Isaac Musselman. Might be missing someone there. Can't quite remember, but they do great work. Sorry if I missed anyone. And then also last but not least, shout out to Kyle Tucker. He's a teacher at Strathmore High School. I'm not a teacher, so he's always there. He does all the admin work for our program, organizes the buses, the refs, makes the schedule, all that stuff, so he can just let me focus on coaching the team on the field. I don't have to do too much off the field, which is great. And then kind of last thing would be, Strathmore, I'm proud of how far the program has come the last few years. We're really making some noise provincially, and I think we're here to stay.
Yeah, I agree. I think you are here to stay, and shout out to all the volunteers, like you mentioned, who kind of make this work. Gage, are you here? Can you hear me?
He said
Yeah,
he
I'm
said
here.
in the chat.
My
Oh,
mouse died on my computer, so I had to switch to my phone real quick. I couldn't unmute myself. Sorry.
Okay,
it's all
no
good.
worries. No worries. All Gage, you got any shout outs you want to give before we end the podcast?
I'd like to shout out, all my teammates, obviously, for working hard in practice and stuff like that. Also, all the coaches that I've been with, Coach Sadu for helping me with Football Alberta and stuff like that, and just being an overall good head coach and offensive coordinator. I absolutely love the offense that I'm in. Coach Danny for helping me a lot in spring and stuff like that. Becoming a better receiver today. Omari for helping me getting into Raw. And I honestly don't think I'd be the football player I am today without Omari or Raw. And yeah, I'd like to thank you for inviting me onto the podcast.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure having all you guys on here. Danny, we've been looking to doing this a long time, so I'm glad you can have you on here. Thank you everybody for listening. If you're in the Chestermere area this Friday Night Lights, go check this game out. I know I'm hyped to see how this goes. I wish I could make it there. But this should be a really good game full of people that, are friends most of the time, but for one night are not going to be friends. And that's kind of what makes this game so beautiful. So thank you to all of you for coming on. Thank you to everyone for listening. We are going to continue to do these weekly, maybe even multi-weekly podcasts as we move forward. We really appreciate feedback. It's hard to know when you're doing a podcast, besides how many people are listening, which we're getting a number of you, so thank you. But it's hard to know if we're hitting all the right notes and we're giving you guys what you want. So please, any constructive feedback, positive, negative, we want to hear it all. We want to make this podcast as entertaining and as information-based as possible, while shedding light on our beautiful game of high school football and shedding or giving appreciation to all the people, players, coaches, and volunteers who make this thing go every single year. So please reach out to us on all our social medias via DM, any feedback or things you want to hear more of, things you don't want to hear, anything, we're open to that. So Omari, send us out.
Yeah, I want to appreciate the kind words there, Gage. It's been a pleasure, getting to coach you and seeing you grow, and I'm looking forward to see where your career takes you. As it goes for now, for our other podcast, appreciate everyone tuning in. You can find us here on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, anywhere where you get your podcasts. You'll also see us on YouTube as well, the teasers. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff that helps us show in the algorithm there. And it's a fun time to appreciate the time we're in right now, show a lot of gratitude, and make sure you get your gorilla pump on and look big.
Man, oh boy, that's definitely going to be our short clip that we share this week. All right, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Jacob, Gage, Scott, and Dan, and good luck this week, and stay safe, everybody.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thanks for
guys.
having me on, guys.
You bet.
Thanks all.
Keep up the good work, eh?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care, boys.
You bet. Bye.